All right, welcome back to the Spiel Sports Talk Show, where we give you the hottest takes in our favorite leagues. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the NFL. We'll talk about that Thursday night football game that we just watched together on the stream, and our Week 3 reactions and some previews to Week 4. As always, we'll have our regular segments like Black Bellies, Waiver Wonders, and the Spiel. To start off, let's introduce our guest for tonight. We are live from the New York metro area. Randy, Arlo Vision, how you doing, bro?
Chilling on this Thursday night, enjoying football season. That game
Football.
was a slow start, but
It was.
we're feeling good. We'll get into it and unpack all the details for y'all.
It was definitely
Go ahead and
exciting
pass it.
towards the end. Definitely was. And then over in Arizona, we got Quay, Black Belichick himself. How you doing tonight? How's it over
On
there?
everybody.
Black
It's
Bill
good.
Belly.
It's good. It's good. I live in Arizona, but I'm not a Cardinals fan. Well, in the sense of like it's my team. I do follow the Cardinals. They've been a team I followed since I was a kid. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm pretty sure the rest of the city's not doing that well. But like Randy said, we'll unpack all of that. But I'm doing really well. I hope you guys have been having a good night as well. And I can't wait to get into everything and also give you some good waiver wonder picks.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. I mean, how were you feeling about this game that just happened? It looked like it was all tied up, ready to go to OT, and then they were able to get in the field goal range and get the points they needed to go away with the victory. Well, let's start off with our guy out there in Arizona. Like, what's the temperature like over there in terms of the fans and how they're feeling about this team? They had a big loss, a big injury. James Conner had a gruesome injury this weekend. We'll spare you those images, but hoping the best for his recovery. And he's the type of player that gets the game going just for the offense and gets things moving. And the type of play that he brings to the table is is going to be missed throughout the season. I think tonight towards the end they did come back, but what's going on over there? Give us a little bit about like going into the game and the results of it now. Like, where do the Cardinals go from here? Losing a big game, a big divisional game on Thursday night football.
It's two divisional games in a row. Just eking out a loss. Can get that win against San Francisco, um, and then having to having to lose this here. It's tough. I think it did start with the James Conner injury, sadly. For those who don't know, I mean, he is a tough man spiritually, mentally, physically. Um, yeah, he's gone through a lot. For those who don't know, he's dealt with cancer, very severe form, and really bounced back. He was a hometown hero in Pittsburgh. It's kind of sad that that he left, but understood. It's a business, and I don't think we appreciated him enough towards the end of his career with us, but. Came out here, fans loved him. I've met a few clients who talk about it all the time. Where they're like, "Man, I love Connor. He's like been a great addition to the team." And I'm like, I know, I love him since he's gotten out here. I think he's really shown people throughout the league who he really is, and that toughness was very, very important for this Cardinals offense. And you can tell they missed it. I think they couldn't really get the tempo going the way they wanted to by even getting those quick little 3-4 yard bursts. Like they don't need to be the craziest runs. Connor would just set the tone, wear out a defense, and then allow other things to happen. And they don't really have someone who does the same thing. So think you really saw that once he went down, like I said, against San Francisco, and then tonight. Um, and then Kyler throwing 2 picks. I think him having to take on more responsibility, which I think he's capable of. Just off of a short week, I think that kind of came into play with the injury involved. But going forward, I mean, he's going to have to elevate himself. He's a first round talent. Um, this is a kid that was drafted to be the franchise in the future for this team, and there's been ups and downs, whether it's because of injury, coaching, um, just the results, just in itself by his performance, and I think certain people are kind of fed up with him in Arizona. They want a different quarterback. They feel like they need a different change, and I think sometimes there is maybe some truth to that. I also believe there's just they still need other things on offense to kind of elevate him. Their line isn't the best. They are dealing with a new coach in terms of defensive coach, second year with the current coach that they have now. So I do think there's times we had, and he is a shorter quarterback, so there are going to be different things that he does differently or that he can't necessarily do unless conditions are good for him. But there's no denying he's a talented quarterback who has taken over games. We've seen him have 4 touchdown games. We've seen him take over in the running game and the passing game, and that if the Cardinals are going to, you know, make some noise in a very tough NFC West division, the Rams aren't slouches. Obviously, we just saw the Seahawks team, very strong defense. Sam Darnold has shown that he is the quarterback that he was last year. Very efficient, won't make mistakes. Just really plays the quarterback position very, very well. And it's good to see that a guy like him, who's also a first round talent, finally, get some shine, starting from last year and now going into this year. So, yeah, that's pretty much, Cardinals going forward are going to have to lean so heavily into Kyler Murray. I think he's going to have to take more command. And I think that's going to help, with the way their defense is playing. They were able to, after giving up 2 quick scores, kind of slow the game down, and, allow that offense to come back. So, I think if that defense plays really well as they have the first 3 weeks, they haven't given up a lot of points outside of almost that comeback against the Panthers. I think the Cardinals still have a chance to at least claim a wild card, barring other things happening in their division for them to win it. But I think they still have the ability to make a wild card spot in the NFC.
I feel that. I feel that. And I know from my perspective, y'all were watching me suffer in real time as in my fantasy leagues. I'm in 3 different competitive leagues. And in one I have James Conner, so I feel that effect there. Luckily
Hmm.
took him out of the starting role before the game kicked off tonight. And then in another league, with some friends from work, I have Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray. And going into that fourth quarter, boy, it was looking grim. So I'm happy to see that they were finally able to muster together a good offensive drive. I think their defense did a decent job of just holding on, keeping them in the game.
Hmm.
But I agree that they're not firing on all cylinders, and we are at the point in Kyler Murray's career where the discussion becomes: Is this the right guy to build our franchise around, or do we need to go in another direction and either bring in another veteran or start new with a young quarterback? Um, Again, he's always going to get the knocks about his stature and his size. That comes
Hmm.
into question. I think he's proven that he's capable of being at Seahawks Russell Wilson level, um, despite his small stature. But he's also looking like he's leaning more towards that end of the spectrum than, say, a Drew Brees, which was another quarterback who was floating around 5'11", 6 foot, a little bit taller, but was known for being undersized and still being able to perform. Um,
Hmm.
Difference is Kyler Murray has legs under him. I think where I saw that their offense was able to spark off was a couple of just him taking it for himself, creating a first down for them, getting that momentum, confidence, and the connection between him and Marvin Harrison is going to be huge for the rest of the season. But I'm going to be honest, I think that they're probably closer to a 500 team, maybe a game or two above that, if the best outcome happens for them this season. Um, but I think that said, I think it could still be a great statistical season for a Kyler Murray, and they end up with that record. I think they might just not have it like what it takes to win those decisive games. I think we saw that here tonight. Um, it could be a coaching thing as well too. Just as much as
Hmm.
we're constantly evaluating a quarterback, the reality is, and as we've seen with other franchises, moving on or shifting quarterbacks around and them finding success at other franchises, it it could be more than the quarterback, and that might be more what's holding them back. As we've seen, Kyler Murray has proven that he's able to put up good performances. And if there's a dip in form, it could be also circumstances beyond his skill set and capability that are making him more exposed or not look as sharp as he has in the past. And yeah, I think if Arizona's truly invested in him, that's where they're going to have to build that team around him. They're going to have to stick
Yeah.
with a QB if he gets you a winning record, if he's holding you around 500. That's still a solid performance. And I think too many teams are playing musical chairs and then wondering why they can't really build a unit and a team that can make multiple runs. But it's again because I think they're just chopping their head off every few years, and so there's not ever a clear direction if you don't get a quarterback who is able to get stability, a stable offensive identity along with that. And when you look at the best teams in the league, that's exactly what they have. And as
Yeah.
a Washington Commies fan, I know all too well how the quarterback roulette can just be a vicious cycle that really puts a glass ceiling on your team's capability to perform and really reach the top. I think gone are the days where you can have a really good team and just have a decent quarterback. Some people say like a Jalen and win the Super Bowl, and some people say Jalen Hurts might not be the best, but he's still a above average
He's a
quarterback
winner.
and a proven winner. I would say probably the last kind of like mediocre no name QB who was able to perform in a Super Bowl was Nick Foles. And again, it was
Oh.
carried by that Eagles defense, but I don't see that happening in today's NFL. I don't think that we can just have a defense really dominate and kind of trudge out there a not elite quarterback who can really tip the scales of a game. But yeah, that's what I'm looking to see out of both these teams for the rest of the season. I thought Seahawks solid performance, a little shaky there at the end, but I give more credit for the ending to Arizona's offense just finally finding a connection than I do
Hmm.
fault Seattle. I thought they executed their game plan, and even with Arizona popping off in the last 10 minutes, they were able to withstand that due to the lead that they built. So Thursday night, we were talking about. I want to just transition the convo. We were talking about Thursday night football games in general. I just want to get a pulse or feel from you guys on like where we think that Thursday night football games can go. I love honestly that it's available on Prime um, because to me, where a lot of these extra streaming services have felt extra or a burden, especially people who use Twitch, it's nice that the Amazon Prime subscription that we were all using to get things that we purchased to us faster now has this awesome media component, and they're able to actually get some good content
Hmm.
and things like a unique live game. I love the accessibility there. And while we were talking about not every game has been the most entertaining, what are your thoughts on Thursday Night Football? Do you want it to stay? And I guess we could also lump in some of these international games.
Yeah, I mean, I think the teams having to travel on a short week just gives the away team such a disadvantage. But then we've seen games where the away team just blows out the home team, and it's really at both teams' detriment that they have to play and turn around so quickly. Just imagine you've just gotten through a brutal divisional game on a Sunday, maybe 4 p.m. slot, then all of a sudden you're traveling to a divisional opponent on Thursday. It's a lot of traveling, and I think we've seen a lot of injuries over the last couple of years on Thursday night football. And I think that as a product, it's normally not as good as watching a 1 p.m. slate or 4 p.m. game. That being said, as a fan, though, being able to have something to watch that's fun on a Thursday, and sometimes your team plays on Thursday, and you get to experience the ebbs and flows of the NFL game earlier in the week. I For me, I like that a lot. I mean, I enjoy it as a fan, like being able to do that. But as the product itself, I don't think it's usually as good as your normal Sunday game. And let's maybe transition over to these international games. We got one this weekend. The Steelers are hosting the Vikings over there in Ireland, in Dublin. Um, and this is going to be, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, uh, the last time the Steelers played a game in Ireland was 1997, the preseason game. So it's been over 20 years since, and now we're having a regular season game. The Rooneys, the owners who have owned the Steelers for a long time, they've always wanted to play game over there in Ireland. So this is kind of like a dream come true for that family. But in terms of the players, I wonder, is it going to be a distraction? You know, you're kind of on vacation, but you're still on work. But you know, when you're on that work trip, you know, you get distracted sometimes. So what do you think, Quay? Do you think the Steelers are gonna be able to play well against this Vikings team, which defensively last week they looked like one of the better teams in the league? And maybe that offense isn't that good, but that defense is legit. How is Aaron Rodgers and the offense going to fare, especially playing in a different time zone on a different continent at 9:30? I think will be the game time here over in the East Coast. How's that going to look like for the Steelers?
Well, I think overall the outcome of the game um, comes down to the quarterback play. So Rodgers versus Wentz. Whoever plays better, I think, wins the game. I think the Vikings have a little more going with themselves with the offense. They just have a lot of weapons in the passing game. With the most obvious is Justin Jefferson, the Jet himself, and TJ Hawkinson at tight end, who Steelers tend to struggle covering tight ends. Then there's also Jordan Addison coming back from suspension, so that's going to be a big addition. Jordan Mason in the backfield being a really good addition that they've signed in the offseason. So it's going to be a tough game for this for the Steelers here, but especially with the injuries on defense. But I do think the defense has been very opportunistic, at least within the past. In Tomlin's tenure, he does have experience of playing overseas. Le'Veon Bell's first season with us back in 2013, we played a game overseas, and I think weirdly we might have been against the Vikings. I need to double check that
It
one.
was a game in
Um,
London against the Vikings. I believe it was
yeah,
2013
yeah.
or 2014.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I actually think it was a game against the Vikings, which is hilarious. So there's definitely the experience there with Tomlin. I mean, that's what happens when you're a coach for almost 20 years in this league. There's not much that you haven't seen or have experienced. So um, I think that experience and also with Rodgers, while it hasn't been the most pretty or flashy, Rodgers has played very well in terms of protecting the ball. making the right throw when needed. I think something that was missing last year um, that we needed was those quick timing passes and some of those intermediate passes, just like right in the middle of the field. I don't think we were getting a lot of those, and it's been helping the offense, even though, as stated, hasn't been the greatest numbers in terms of the passing game. But I do think this offense is weirdly um, creative enough or maybe creatively inept to a point where we catch teams off guard by the way that we play. Because there's sometimes like a nice little scheme up that we can do. So
And the players are talented.
overall, yeah,
Talented
and the
players
players
on
are
the team.
talented. Yeah, so I think that just kind of helps out. And I do think the Steelers are going to need to do more than that they've been doing over the past 3 weeks to beat a team like the Vikings, especially with Brian Flores on that defense, coaching that defense. Still wish that we didn't let that man walk, that he should be our defensive coordinator. Again, I will stress that as
Teryl
many
Austin.
times the Vikings get brought up. But
5 turnovers last week though against the Patriots.
yeah, we had good turnovers against the Patriots last week, so that's going to be the other thing. What team's defense plays better? Um, this, like you said, the Steelers had great turnovers, were very opportunistic last week. Vikings also played very well, but they were going against a very injured um, Bengals team, or I won't just say very injured because it's mainly just a quarterback, but that's a big injury. And then also not having a defense that can cover anyone, stop anything. So doesn't really say much here, but they've been competitive all year, even in games that they didn't win. They've at least been competitive. So the defense is also going to be the spot to look at to see what team wins. Um, so that's what it's going to come down to, what team can make the plays at the right time. I don't see this being a high scoring game just due to the Steelers liking to control the clock, and we don't necessarily have the creative explosion on offense to just have shootouts. So I think this is going to be a game that we see easily, I mean, like a 23-17 type of game, 23-20 type of game. Again, not too many points. I'd be very surprised if these teams both score 3 touchdowns apiece on offense. I think we get 2 touchdowns by both teams and a bunch of field goals.
Yeah,
I
I could
guess
say
so.
that.
Final score I would say is 23-17 Steelers.
Yeah, low scoring affair over there, I think, and then Ireland. Let's move on. I do want to talk about the Commanders too, and hear Andy's 2 cents on the Commanders game this weekend. Um, Dan Quinn is returning to Atlanta, where he was the head coach. So there's a bit of a personal narrative here for this game. Um, the
Yeah,
big
I'm
the
I'm
big story
excited.
is the kid being hurt, Jaden Daniels, the knee injury. I mean, how's it feel over there with this big injury on the star QB? Does it cause panic over there? Um, you would think it would, but then Marcus Mariota comes in and fills in just perfectly. So
Just fine.
yeah, Randy,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts
that's
about the Commanders and how they're looking so far this season and the game they're going into this weekend against Atlanta?
yeah, for me, I mean, 100%. There's of course initial cause for concern, like Jaden goes down, given our quarterback history, so I think we must protect him at all costs. And if that means having him sit out some time now to recuperate, rest early in the season, I'm totally okay with that. Marcus Mariota is an experienced vet in the league at this point. He has led strong teams. He can win us games. And as long as Jaden needs to heal, we can definitely eke out some of these wins with Mariota. I think he's running the offense perfectly fine. I actually think if you're looking at fantasy prospects, if you have a Terry McLaurin, look for him to even get more hits through our offense, more targets as well. When Jaden's in the game, there is obviously a number of plays that end up in a scramble or with him running. And Mariota, of course, is capable of getting some stuff on the ground, but look for much more pocket passing coming from our team. So to me, I think as long as we establish our running game, with the loss of Eckler, that our 1-2 punch was a little bit hurt, but I think we can really, I really believe in our rookie Bill, and we if we can establish a good, and I would say just 50 plus yard games from him will help balance out that offense just enough, and Mariota can air the ball out, and then the main thing of this is our defense has got to stay solid. I think we're going up against an Atlanta team that doesn't have the strongest offense right now, so we should be able to sustain. I know it's an away game. It's never easy to, you know, go down to Atlanta and take a game. Falcons fans will be out in full force, but I think one, with Dan Quinn visiting his old franchise, and two, with the way that I'm proud of how this team is showing up as a unit, especially in the first game without Jaden. They didn't look shaken. They looked poised. Um, and if anything, I'm more confident that going forward we can win without Jaden. Where we're gonna need Jaden back is to make that final push. We were NFC Championship game team last year, and we absolutely need Jaden if we want to surpass those heights. So, um, good news is those games don't come till late December, January, and
Hmm.
right now Jaden has plenty of time to get ready and recuperate for those, and that's top priority. Um, I'm protecting him just like his mama from these hoes, so let us make sure these injuries are good, Jaden's safe, and can't wait to have him back, but no rush.
Yeah, I don't think you guys should rush him back. Um, I think he should definitely heal up as much as he can. I think Mariota, the way your offense is set up, he's the perfect backup for this system. You utilize his running. Cliff Kingsbury utilizes his running ability very well, um, which that the dual threat ability is definitely key for his offense. I mean, he worked with Kyler, and Kyler had obviously his best numbers in his career when Kingsbury was here in Arizona. So I think, yeah, to your point, just go ahead and let Jayden just recover. You have enough talent on offense, and a really good offensive play caller with a great head coach, that has been to a Super Bowl, that knows how to, um, knows what it takes to get there. And so no need to rush. Right squarely behind the Eagles in the division, as everyone would predict and everyone knew. So that's obviously where the goal is, to make sure you're staying with them and to hopefully eclipse them if something were to happen with their season, maybe an injury or, it's a tough part of the schedule where they just kind of start to lose a couple games. But if you can string along a good, because I think Jane is supposed to be out for a few more weeks. But if you can string together a good 3-1 record, or even going 2-2 until he comes back, like that'll be very, very good. But I think this team has enough talent, and with the way the schedule is coming up, can easily go 3-1. They're already 1-0 without Jane. I think they can easily win two more um, while he's out, and give him some time to recover. So it's fun. It's fun seeing the Commanders, have a quarterback. It's if somehow have some curse, like you mentioned, with their quarterbacks. So with Theismann, RG3, Alex Smith when he was there. So definitely, be cautious with the
Jason
young man.
Campbell, like
Jason Campbell,
Bell,
yeah,
list goes
yeah.
on and on and on. But I definitely, yeah, that's where my mindset goes is that Ravens game, RG3, um, we're already up in the first half. Let's just take him out. Let's let's just run the ball with Alfred Morris the rest of the second half. We're up
Hmm.
14-0, and we trot RG3 back out in the third quarter. He hyperextends his knee after coming back from injury, and that really didn't end his career, but really completely flattened his
It's
trajectory.
yeah,
Um, and I would hate to see that happen to another great young talent. I think Jaden also has a more durable build and size for the NFL than RG3 did. So I think he's built for it, but we still need to be cautious.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
yeah. I mean, I feel like it Jaden has brought a spark to the DMV, just like RG3 did. So it'd be really sad to see that be hampered by injury. But I think they'll do the right thing. It seems like the coaching staff and the people up top are a little bit better than they were during that time. I wanted to talk about some quick topics that we don't have to get into as long as our favorite teams here. The first one was the Bears. I mean, the Bears beating the Cowboys, and the Cowboys defense looking like Swiss cheese, whether it's Russell Wilson or Caleb Williams. It doesn't matter who. It seems like the Cowboys are struggling. So that was very
Jerry had to pull
unexpected,
the
right?
emergency signing lever. He said, "Go and get Jadavian.
No.
He's a fine defender. I
Uh,
need him."
and Jerry
I
Jones,
needs
I
the
think
young man.
Jerry Jones said they're still a playoff team. I think
I
just
think I,
delusional, but
I think the Cowboys are harshly feeling the after effects of hastily not wanting to pay Michael Parsons on one level, and then two, they're facing high offensive powered teams, and they are one themselves. So these teams know going into games that it's going to be a shootout, and they're testing their defense. Trayvon Diggs is chasing after people in no man's land,
he
and
just looks
they're
like a
starting.
former shell of his Pro Bowl self.
Yeah, and I mean the reality is the best part about his game is his reads and jumping on passes early and jumping on routes. And when you don't have a solid defensive foundation surrounding you, that skill is actually a weakness that can be exploited by other teams. And I think that's more so what he's suffering for. I don't think he's lost skill, pace, speed, or any of that, but the rest of the defense around him not being able to absorb enough pressure and be stable enough doesn't allow him to take those risks that he was getting a high reward out of in his Pro Bowl seasons.
Yeah,
Whereas now they're just getting punished for that, and then he's having to make up or chase down for tackles. Um, but I love to see it as a NFC East commies fan. We love to see the Cowboys
always love
struggle.
to see a divisional
Um,
opponent lose for sure.
I am scared of their kicker because that still
Aubrey.
just makes them one of the most deadly teams. They complete two passes
I
and
mean,
they're in
without
field
him,
goal.
they would be 0-3.
Yeah,
I think
so
without him, they'd be 0-3.
Yeah.
realistically, if they can figure something out defensively, they are 100% a threat. I think being able to late game keep games tight or one possession games where you score and then can quickly have an opportunity by just completing one or two passes, you're in field goal range. Is absolutely the type of thing that scares me for late season and playoff football. But I hope that their defensive woes continue. I hope Jerry Jones continues to get punished for his stubbornness. CD Lamb is hurt. I think he's a great receiver, but
Pickens time.
yeah, we'll see how long CD Lamb is sidelined for. George Pickens was a great pickup for them. They just need to figure out that damn defense.
Yeah,
And Dallas fans have a high standard. They're not going to accept it, but I think they'll be happy enough with what the offense and Aubrey are doing that they'll be distracted. And if the wins roll in, they'll be happy. But that defense is going to be their downfall if there is
yeah. They're definitely Swiss cheese. I mean, Quay, what are your thoughts on the Bears, like, was this a standout performance for them, or is this the rare once in a blue moon type of performance from the Bears? Do you think they can make some noise here in NFC?
Uh,
The Bears.
realistically speaking, it's tough. I mean, this is a team that would have to go through the team that's kind of showing that they are kind of the cream of the crop of that division again, which is the Lions. You know, kind of stumbling out the gate. Um, they've
And Green
really
Bay.
packed it. Yeah, yeah. In Green Bay, they kind of just said, "Hey, hold on, I forgot who I was for 1 second," and they honestly just they turned it up.
Well,
A 52
Green Bay
point,
lost, right? Speaking of Micah and the Cowboys
yeah, which
to the
I was going to kind of
Browns.
touch base on. Yeah, which I was going to kind of touch base on. I mean, a 52 point output against the Bears, as we are just talking about with Caleb and the Bears, and going really toe to toe, looking like the better team than the Ravens, dropping 38 points. So this Lions team is really, really good, and the Bears didn't stand a chance. They already played them, didn't stand a chance. Um, this Packers team, they beat them week 1, but had a weird, ugly loss against a Browns team that people don't give credit to their defense. It's a really, really good defense. I mean, they have arguably the best overall defender. That's always debated between him and TJ. Like I said, I would say overall defender, just certain things like Micah does, that TJ doesn't have to really do. And Micah succeeds in some of those things that TJ does get exposed to. But they play different positions. They play different positions. They play their TJ's more of a pass rusher, things like that. But Myles Garrett is arguably the top 3 Mount Rushmore in the league on defense, especially when it comes to front sevens. And we have a hilarious clip
Yeah, where he's
of
running.
where he has a clean rush at Jordan Love, and you just hear his offensive lineman say, "Jordan Rush." And this is absolutely hilarious. I hope we can find that clip. We got to put it on stream. But yeah, so I think that Packers team, again, ugly loss against a really good defense. So they had some struggles there, and they still need to figure out fully on offense and with the receivers, how they're going to operate things. Had a big injury with Jayden Reed, and things like that. But I think they'll get back on track. And they're clearly better than the um, Bears. They haven't faced each other yet, so we won't fully know until we see them go at it together. But I just think in the Vikings, how dominant they looked against um, the Bengals, as we just talked about, and I just don't see them in that same realm. But that with all that being said, that matchup against the Cowboys, and I know it was the Cowboys, as we stated, Swiss cheese, if you love Swiss cheese, go see the Cowboys. Um, Ben Johnson, you can tell, you can see that offense really, really starting to shine. And you can really see how Caleb is looking better than he did last year. So I like where things are headed for this team. I just don't think they're 100% in the same class as the rest of the division. If there is any team that they could be better than, and that would just be based on time and also depending on how their quarterback plays, is the Vikings. They have Carson Wentz right now, but JJ McCarthy's going to come back. But JJ has looked, like a rookie. He didn't play all year, and maybe it didn't help that he was injured. It's a little different when you're not starting and you're still practicing and getting those reps in. It's a little different though if you're injured. You can learn the plays, you can learn the system and things like that, but building that rapport with the team and like actually having those reps in practice that simulates game speed or even getting some garbage time last year um, as the backup would have helped tremendously going into year two. And I think, depending on how that all plays out, whether they go back to him and then he does well, or they go back to him and it's not so well, and they maybe they go back to Carson Wentz. I do think that allows the door to be open for the Bears to be better than them, but I don't think the Bears can be better than the Packers or the Lions, barring any type of injury, and mainly injury to the Packers, not to the Lions. We saw the Lions with everyone on defense hurt, and they still made it to the divisional round. And if certain things didn't happen during that game early on, it was close until the wheels just fell off, and the Commanders took that home. So yeah, I'm happy for Caleb. Like I said, looking at this one game, but yeah, they're still not up there with the Lions, and right now still not there with the Packers. Closer to the Vikings due to circumstance, but
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
speaking of the Lions, I think that'd be a great way to kind of come back full circle to the fantasy football, and I think we're gonna lead into Black Belichick's waiver wonders right after is the Monday Night Football game, where the Lions went to Baltimore and they beat the Ravens, who have had very lofty expectations this season just because of where they've been, what they've done in the past, and now the only thing left for them is to get to the Super Bowl and hopefully win it. But talk about a bad beat in fantasy. We had two close matchups involving various players from both teams, and I just remember going back and forth and back and forth. And at the end, the Montgomery touchdown made all the difference and affected a bunch of games. And I'm sure not just in our fantasy league, but all over the fantasy world. Uh, but I want to hear both of your thoughts on what Lamar and the Ravens have to do moving forward. It seems like the defense is letting up tons of points, and if it weren't for these costly turnovers late in the game from star players like Derrick Henry, like Lamar, they may be 3-0 and would probably be the favorite. What's going on with the Ravens here? Is this a coaching thing? It seems like every week they're always showing flashes of what they should be, but the game in their totality always leaves like more to be desired.
I
What's
mean,
going
for
on with the
me,
Ravens?
I think the Ravens flock is, when we're looking at it in totality, the last person that should be thinking about what they should do differently or what they should be doing in this moment is Lamar. Um, he's delivering the same MVP standards that he has with a different cast around him. Mark Andrews finally woke up this week for the first time this season, and we saw that that connection is actually back and viable. I know a lot of people, especially after last season's injury, and the emergence of Isaiah Likely in week one of last season, looking like, oh, okay, this is the next transition, but then not really panning out over the season. Good to see that Lamar and Andrew still had a strong connection. Rashad Bateman looks like a great additional option out of the receiving core. Derrick Henry, unfortunate fumble. Third game in a row, he's averaging a fumble a game. That is something that can be cleaned up. I think he's just getting a little bit too loose with it, and defenders are also starting to target him um, when he's really getting ready to cradle the ball and it's getting a little bit further away from his body is right when he's starting to get it punched out. And
Mhm.
also, fumbles can come down to a little bit of luck, and not only in the fact that you fumbled the ball, but what team recovers the fumble. Where the fumble rolls can determine so much, and whether you look at it as like, hey, you made a mistake that led to a turnover, or okay, they made an amazing defensive play, but hey, our team recovered the ball, another lineman fell on it, and we continue our drive from there. So I think a lot of those knife edge plays are hurting the Ravens early in this season, and I think they have to understand that outside of some of these um, kind of like game winning or game deciding moments that they have played well otherwise, their defense has entirely given up too many points. And that's to me what should be number one priority for them to fix. I think also the filling the void that is Justin Tucker's consistency has hurt them as well early this season in close games. And for all of that stuff to turn around, they're running out of time with these early losses in the season, but they've had a tough schedule as well.
Yeah,
Um,
Bills,
Yeah.
and
Lions.
the the reality is though is that they're in a tough division as well. So all of those games are going to be just as tough, and they're gonna need to beat the best if they want to have a shot this season. If anyone can do it, it is that team. It is with Lamar Jackson leading them. I think Derrick Henry can clean up some of his fumbles and will be more cognizant of it the rest of the season. And I actually fear if Derrick Henry cleans that up, that offense could be unstoppable in terms of just what they can do on the running game, how they can beat you in the air. There, you really can't set up to stop both. So you just have to hope that you can slow them down and pounce when there's opportunities for things like turnovers. And that's the only way that you can, I think, really count Baltimore out. As long as New Era 8 is behind center, they're gonna have to recognize the greatness that could happen. He needs a little bit more help from his team, though. That's just the reality. You can't do it alone. I don't care how great of a player you are. There's 11 on the field at any given time, and 22 between offense and defense, and no individual player is going to carry a team to the greatness that the Ravens are trying to seek. I don't think you question the coaching. I don't think you question the QB. You just need better performances across the
Yeah,
board from the
mm,
rest of the 22-man roster.
better execution, I think, is key. So yeah, I think
You
that
know,
that team
it's
is it has a lot of potential still, and maybe that this will help them grow into that championship team that they need to be. But Quay, you were saying,
no, I it's funny that you mentioned that because I think Lamar would just say the same thing. I think Lamar feels the same way. Um, it's it's weird. You would argue that they really do have like some type of curse, or just whatever. Like they lose these games where they have it, like they have the win. It's right there, and then something happens, like you're just not expecting that thing to happen, or someone has a miscue that they don't, usually have. And even to the point you made, even with like the consistency of Justin Tucker, there were moments where he even would miss a crucial field goal that would have gave them the win, or want like preventing a game from going into overtime. And it didn't happen often, but again, it's those weird moments where they just seem to shoot themselves in the foot. This is a really, really talented team. Otherwise, I am concerned to your point about the defense overall. They have played really like playoff teams, so I will say the teams that they've given up points to are playoff caliber teams, teams that we would argue are, Super Bowl contenders, if not the Super Bowl representatives of their conferences. Um, so a little bit of a pass there. I mean, they were also able to put up points on those same teams. So it's just one of those like heavyweight bouts that you see, just haymaker, haymaker, hook after hook, just exchanging. So, I don't think that's a real tell of their defense. I think it will get better as the season goes along. Um, and I still think they're going to come out as the AFC representative for the Super Bowl. Um, I know one and two teams have some weird record of that's not considered a good record when it comes to trying to make the playoffs and trying to win a Super Bowl. But
Early.
this is not your normal team.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so early.
this
And
is,
speaking of
yeah.
curses, like you were talking about, a big monkey on Lamar's back for a while was that he could not beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And
Hmm.
guess what? Who's rolling over to Kansas City next week is the Ravens. So I really look for this performance to be a linchpin for them for the season. Both teams really are going to be desperate for a win. So I'm looking to see what Lamar's made out of. And I know he wants to beat Patrick Mahomes every time they're on the field for those playoff
Hmm.
losses that he's constantly been a victim in their Super Bowl paths. So I'm looking for Lamar to really step up to the plate this game after a gut wrenching loss by 1 point to the Bills, one possession game shootout loss to the Lions. This is going to be a game that, is really going to define the trajectory of both team seasons. And both have Super Bowl ambitions, potential AFC championship uh, matchup.
Preview.
And
Yeah.
it's insane that one of those teams is going to go into week 5 with one win.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot more
Yeah.
that we could cover here with the NFL, but let me get everyone's predictions for that Ravens Chiefs game before we jump into Black Belly's waiver wonder. So, Randy, what do you have in terms of the winner and the score when the
This is
Ravens
tough.
go up to Arrowhead, 4 o'clock slot, America's game of the week?
This is a tough one for me to call. I'm gonna go with. Mm, I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I'm trying to buy myself more time to think of a score, but I'm gonna just pick one right now. I think with the Chiefs getting a win last week against the Giants, they probably, and they didn't look too impressive in that win. I think the Ravens have lost twice as well, but it was against really great competition, and they took it to the wire. So I think they clean up the turnovers. The Chiefs' offense, while still strong, hasn't looked as strong as it has in the past. So I think Ravens defense holds up, but I'm predicting a probably 34 to 27 score line in favor of the Ravens.
What do you think, Clay?
I th- I think this is a tough one to call out too. Xavier Worthy is definitely playing this week, so I think that changes a lot of things. I was initially going to say this was going to be a lower scoring affair um, until seeing that Worthy was coming back. So that being said, I do think we will have a bit of a shootout. Um, I do think both teams eclipse the higher 20s. I think one team finishes over 30. If both teams finish over 30, it'll be barely over 30 um, for one of those teams. But I think we're going to get a 31 to 27 game. And that's going to go to got to give it to Lamar to finally get the monkey off his back.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see the game going that way. I'm going to go 27-24 Chiefs. Uh, Xavier Worthy coming back, I think, is big. Thornton looks like he can play the wide receiver one position, right? Um, I think that their team is doing well defensively. I think well enough to be a championship team again. We'll just see how the offense gels with their players coming back. I think moving on later into the season, what we're going to see Rasheed Rice back too. So I think this Chiefs team can do some damage. They need to get this dub. I think the Ravens are in position where I think they can afford to lose this game, but I think for the Chiefs here, it's a must-win. So I think they're going to eke through with the win at Arrowhead, and we'll see the Chiefs as they take on the Ravens this weekend on Sunday. So let's move on to our Black Bellies waiver wonders, where Black Belichick gives you the pickups you need to turn your fantasy team around for the better. So, who do you have for us this week? Who should we pick up?
Yes, welcome to Black Belly's Waiver Wonders. Always fun, to give you guys some insight, to help your team, turn around. Black Belly has been struggling. I haven't been able to get the players that no, that's actually not what's been going on. My team has been hurt. I've been dealing with some quarterback inconsistencies, trying to figure out my wide receiver position in one league, putting in wrong players in another league, but it's okay. 1-2, 0-3. There's, as we just talked about, there's 1-2 teams getting ready to face each other. They're both playoff contenders, so I'm still a playoff contender. 0-3 teams, we'll see what happens. I'm still gonna turn around. Me and Arlo here, we're suffering at 0-3 at the bottom of the league, but we're gonna turn it around. I know we're about to make a push. We're about to make a push. But yeah, with all that
Push,
being said,
baby.
I got some good picks for you guys, and I usually go really in depth with the stats. I'm kind of going to go more just because for a lot of these players, the stats don't necessarily look the greatest. But with bye weeks coming up, and injuries, and different things that always plague a fantasy football team. Um, there are good players to kind of pick up to maybe stash. You might need to spot start someone because there's no one else out there for you. So um, I got one for you with, as we talked about earlier, with the Cowboys. You have an injury with CD Lamb, a receiver there that I really like. Obviously, George Pickens is taken in a lot of leagues. He might be available in some. If he is, obviously, go get him. But the receiver that I actually am looking at outside, that's in Dallas there, outside of George Pickens, is Cavante Turpin. Really big play receiver for the Cowboys. Special teams threat. He is always a threat to take it to the house. So with the ability to make plays in the special teams, and also being a big play guy on offense, he is their burner. Dak has actually been looking to get him the ball in a lot of games too. So I think with the potential and the chemistry going there, and yeah, the big playability, Cavante Turpin will be a great pickup for you. I wouldn't necessarily start him right away. You want to kind of see how um, the Cowboys are going to kind of utilize or running offense, should I say, with the injury to CeeDee Lamb, maybe they lean more heavily into the run, so it takes away a little bit from the pass. But again, with the fact that the Cowboys do have to um, pass to typically stay in games, even though Javonte Williams hasn't playing well, Cavante Turpin's big playability is worth the ad, in my opinion, there. So if he's available, go ahead and grab him. Next, we are going to Tennessee, and we are going to talk about Shake Okonkwo, tight end. Again, stats haven't been necessarily the greatest, but he's been upping his chemistry with Cam Ward, and because of that chemistry budding even more. Um, Typically, rookie quarterbacks love to use tight ends as well, and there has been some injuries at the tight end position, and it's always a very scarce position. He could be a good ad for you if you need maybe a backup tight end. If you're looking for just even more consistency at tight end, He has increased his output each week, which is a nod to that up in chemistry with Cam Ward there. So, again, Chico Conquo would be a really good one if you don't have a solidified position or solidified starter at tight end. Um, Next, this is more of a stash one, but he has played well the previous game, and I think we're going to start to see a shift with this offense here in Miami. But Ollie Gordon, running back for the Miami Dolphins. Again, stats not necessarily the greatest. Mainly had more of a more of a um, outbreak or yeah, pretty much had a breakout game the last game, scoring a touchdown, scoring over 10 points in fantasy. It seemed like Mike McDaniel was leaning more into the running game. Tua doesn't have the strongest arm. I think we all see that on the tape by how Tyreek always has to slow down. And I know some people would say, well, it's not Patrick Mahomes' arm, so he has to kind of. There's truth to that as well, but he doesn't necessarily have the strongest arm. That offense shifts more to a quick rhythm passing offense. But Mike McDaniel's was really known for being a really, really good run scheme type of coach. When he was the offensive coordinator with the 49ers, that was what he was really known for. Yeah, he can draw up plays and be creative, but he was known for being able to draw up those really dynamic run plays that allowed Christian McCaffrey, when he got there, to be successful. So um, I think with Tua's certain limitations and the way the offense is kind of changing, I think he's starting to try to lean more into a running game. And that was evident with the Bills matchup last week. So, again, I would pick him up more as a stash. If you have injuries at running back and need someone to start, really good running back to go ahead and have, with the potential that, again, Miami is more likely going to lean more into the run, especially with their matchup this week. They have a matchup this week against the Jets, divisional matchup, and the Jets have given up some running yards here. So I think it should be a good pickup and a good start if you don't have anyone else to start in like a flex position. Another running back, we are going to actually go to DC, talk to the commies. I think any one of these running backs can be picked up, but just again, with Mariota starting, the team really having a running identity. Yes, there's weapons in the receiving core, but they really utilize and start this offense with the running attack. Chris Rodriguez tied carries with McCroskey Merritt. Even last season when it was Eckler, B Rob, and yeah, pretty much Eckler and B Rob as the two. Rodriguez would get some play, so would McNichols, and they both looked really, really good. Which again, you could probably pick him up as well. But I'm leaning more into Chris Rodriguez because he had the same amount of carries as Krosky Merritt, who has tend to be the more early down back. So it seems like they're splitting those early down roles together right down the line. And so I like the potential there, even though McNichols is the one who scored the touchdown last week in a really, really big play touchdown over 60 yards. So, like I said, either one of those guys are worth the ad just because of the fact that the Commanders are probably going to lean more into the run. And Rodriguez, again, had a lot of carries to match with Krosky Merritt, but McNichols will also get some play, and he has more of a big playability. So either one of those guys I would pick up there. And actually, we'll take it back down to Washington. Or sorry, back down to Miami and talk about Malik Washington. And again, this is a player, stats aren't necessarily the greatest through the first 3 weeks, but he is utilizing this offense. Again, the offense is very quick play. He's very dynamic. He gets carries. He gets receptions. He's one of those receivers that kind of does the running back role as well. They should probably give him dual distinction, but he'll probably earn that next season if he continues this up throughout the rest of the year. But with there being potential that Tyreek gets traded at some point, Malik Washington will eventually be more of that second guy. And he'll run well more within how they do their offense now. Like I said, that's becoming more of a quick rhythm passing, dynamic running type of offense there. So, and his playing time has gone up, and Tua has looked at him a little bit more in each game. So again, Malik Washington there, a good pickup, not necessarily a start right now, but a good pickup due to the potential that he has later on for how the season turns out. And finally, we are going to talk about the standout waiver wonder of the week. The the waiver the waiver sale that you need to go get. Talk about Trey Tucker here, wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. Last week against the Commanders, 8 receptions, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns. He seems to be Geno's favorite target. Even with Brock Bowers there, I still think he's kind of recovering from his week 1 injury. I think he kind of tweaked his knee or hamstring. So he's been a little labored, and the guy that's kind of stepped up has been Trey Tucker. Jacoby Myers is technically the number 1 receiver, but in the first 3 weeks, Trey Tucker has outperformed and outplayed him. And like I said, has looked like the receiver with the best and most chemistry with Geno Smith. Obviously, we're probably not going to get another 8 reception, 145 yard, and 3 touchdown game. To have a hat trick, but I do think this is something that's going to stay where he's going to get the targets, he's going to get the looks. The passing game is going to have to happen a lot of the time because I don't think this Raiders team is complete enough to really stop teams. So they're always going to have to pass the ball to try to contend and stay in contention with those teams. So, but yeah, Trey Tucker, I do think this week was his breakout game. Week 1, he had a touchdown off of 2 receptions, 24 yards, but he had a touchdown week 1. Had some receptions week 2, but nothing huge. And then again, popped off here week 3, but has had the looks, has shown the chemistry with Geno Smith, and he is the must add of the week for Black Belly's waiver wonders. So if he's available, they'll get him. I think he's only owned, if I remember correctly, yes, 55% of leagues in Yahoo. So if he is available, definitely reach out and grab him. He is the must add of the week. But that is all of the picks that I have for you guys this week. Again, sorry there wasn't really any huge standout guys. A lot of guys are already taken. That could have mentioned. Guys that I've mentioned in previous weeks. That they're already taken. That can mention where we got here, like Jawan Johnson. He's in a lot of leagues. In the leagues I'm in, he's no longer available. Wandale Robinson, in leagues I'm in, he's no longer available. Zach Ertz, same thing. Hunter Renfro was picked up in some. Troy Franklin, he might still be in some. So again, weren't too many players to pick from this week, but I hope that information helps you guys, and definitely get the win this week. The goal for everyone is to get the win. I know everyone can't win,
Right.
but try
1-3,
your
baby.
best. That's what I'm saying. I'm going 1-3. About to go 500 in another league. It's a good week. But
Yeah.
once again, this is Black Belly with the Waiver Wonders, and I hope you guys enjoy as always. And good luck this week in
Belly.
fantasy football.
Yeah. Well,
Black
thank you.
Belly, I have one for you, and for the folks who are looking for a receiver. I would bet stocks on Rashad Bateman. I think we saw him get bigger involvement in the Ravens offense.
It's a good
And
one. It's a good
when
one.
Mark Andrews getting going, defenses are now going to be paying more attention to him as a receiving target, and I think the way Lamar works through a lot of his reads, he actually does target Bateman. I know a lot of people might have been scared off of DeAndre Hopkins, especially him having a touchdown in the first two games of the season. But DeAndre
Hmm.
Hopkins has only had two targets through three games as his most, and he's really coming in as more of a big play specialist, it seems like. So I would bet on Rashad Bateman. I think he's rostered in 26% of leagues, so he might be available in
I like
yours.
that.
I've scooped him up in most of mine, and last week he dropped around 17 points. I would look to see him get at least 5 to 7 targets a game, and sprinkle in some more touchdowns throughout the season.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Well, we know that Ravens offense is going to score. It's just trying to figure out who is going to get the touchdown. That's the key. So, thank you so much, everyone, for a great show tonight. Thanks for staying up late for with us here on the live stream. It is spiel time. Do either of you have a spiel?
I got a real
Fish.
quick one.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
can go first if you want, Quay.
Yeah, Quay, go ahead.
No, no. I really didn't have a crazy spiel. Just I just hope everyone is doing well. Seasons have changed. We're officially in the fall season, and when seasons change, sometimes it's good for us to make a little bit of some seasonal changes, whether that's habits, whether that's mindset. I think it's always good once we have those like moments in life where it's part of nature. I think it's always good for us to kind of reflect and kind of change with nature too. So, um, yeah, as season changes, I hope everyone, again, just kind of changes along, just kind of find some different things that they can work on and grow from, especially as we approach the new year and, enter into a new season at that point. So, but I also have been loving the football season, and I'm really looking forward to us getting ready to talk about the NBA coming up in about a month here.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. Well, thanks. Always a pleasure having you on the show, Quay.
Yes,
Randy.
sir.
It's always a pleasure being on the show.
Yes, sir. All right,
Yeah,
real quick spiel. I gotta do my soccer plug at the end of the show. But really quick one this week. Shout out to Manchester United, claiming a 2-1 victory over Chelsea FC. Manchester United has been in news for bad reasons, having a terrible start to the season. Talks about firing the manager. Just 5 games into the English Premier League season, but real fans like me believe in our coach, and I'm looking for this past win against Chelsea to turn into a much more positive season that sees Manchester United return to glory. I'm excited for actually the. I'm not even the biggest MLB fan, but playoff baseball season right around the corner. And as Quay said, NBA hype is going to be upon us. One of my favorite seasons. I can't wait for that to kick off. So many storylines going into it. And yeah, looking forward to more conversations with the boys. Quay, I
yeah,
appreciate the words of positivity you're injecting
always.
into our audience, but also us as your
Blessings.
co-hosts and colleagues. So changing with the seasons
Blessings.
is a beautiful message, and
Beautiful message.
always bringing the positive vibes.
Yeah,
I
I'll pass it
positivity.
appreciate
over
it.
to you, Sal.
Yeah, I mean, only positivity, and I just wanted to send thoughts and prayers to all of those whose seasons ended this weekend. We talked about James Conner earlier, gruesome injury, had needed ankle surgery on his lower legs there. Uh, Nick Bosa tore his
Yeah.
ACL out for the season. And then one of the more brutal ones that's out there circulating the internet, Najee Harris rupturing his
Achilles.
Achilles, always a tough injury, a tough one to recover from. one that Aaron Rodgers is only 2 years removed from, and he's playing at his 40. So anything is possible. I wish Najee best of luck, especially with the injury over the summer to his eye too. So yeah, thoughts and prayers to all the athletes out there, rehabbing and getting back into shape, and hopefully out there on the field. It is your boy Sal. It's a Muslim with my guys here. It's the Spiel Sports Talk Show. It was an honor having the show tonight with all of
And
you,
a pleasure.
and a pleasure. And thanks for rocking us late at night. Hope everyone has a good day, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Gang, gang. Peace out, y'all.